everyone, my name's Fenrir, or you can call me Fen, whichever makes you happier, and today I am uploading my first installment into my Minecraft and Mythology series. Now it is pretty self-explanatory based on the title. I'm going to be playing Minecraft while recounting some mythological tale. Today we are starting with Norse mythology and my namesake, Fenrir, the Great Wolf. I am very excited to share this with you guys. I worked very hard on it. Two things I want to let you know before the video begins. First off, as is the case with all mythological tales, there are many different retellings and different varieties of the same story, but basically all of the main details stay the same. So I tried to include all of the most conclusive information I could find to share with you guys. And all of the links for all of the websites and everything that I used will be down below. Second of all, for every episode of this series, I'm going to be playing on the same Minecraft world, so the gameplay will get more and more interesting as the series progresses. If you think it's kind of lame today, I did try to make it as interesting as possible. I promise you it will get better as the series goes on. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this video.
Alright, so as I mentioned earlier, I will be telling you guys the story of Fenrir from Norse mythology. Really quick, I just wanted to let you know there are a lot of names and places in this story that have many different pronunciations, and I spent like 20 minutes trying to learn how to pronounce everything, so don't attack me if I get something wrong. So Fenrir, his name roughly translates to he who dwells in the marshes, and he's probably the most well-known wolf in all of Norse mythology for good reason, and we'll get into that soon. So his parents are the god Loki and the giantess Angerboda. Loki and Angerboda had two other children together. They had the giant serpent Jomangandr and an underworld goddess Hel. So Fenrir was raised by the Aesir gods, and it's probable that they kidnapped him. He wasn't raised by them willingly. And the Aesir gods are like your typical Norse gods who all live in Asgard, one of the 9 worlds. Now these Aesir gods are gods like Odin, Frigg, Tyr, Heimdall, etc. So these Aesir gods, they held the cosmos together. They defended the cosmos, and the cosmos is like all of the 9 worlds. They defended them from the giants, and the giants just wanted to wreak havoc. They wanted to absolutely destroy everything, make everything go to shit. And the Aesir's gods' main job was to make sure that the cosmos stay alive and well. Now, it was probable that they kidnapped Fenrir because they saw him as a threat. He was the son of a god and a giantess who, they weren't too fond of. And so Fenrir was just growing at this unprecedented pace. He was just growing faster and faster. He was getting stronger and stronger, and the gods were getting concerned because they were like, well, this isn't ideal. He just keeps growing, and we have no way to contain him. So they tried chaining him up, and they tried to chain him up twice, but he kept breaking the chains and he kept breaking free. And so the gods convinced Fenrir that they were actually just testing his strength and durability. They weren't actually trying to chain him up, which is total bullshit. They actually were, but they were able to convince Fenrir that, it was just so he could prove himself. So, they were getting a little concerned after he broke free of 2 very strong chains. So they're like, okay, this third one, we have to make it count. We have to make it actually work. So they commissioned the dwarves to make the strongest chain known to mankind so far. This chain was called Gleipnir, and it was intense. So it was made of, and I quote, the roots of a mountain, the breath of a fish, the sound of a cat's footfall, the spit of a bird, the beard of a woman, and the sinews of a bear. Now, these were all considered basically impossible to obtain. And like, how are you gonna break free from something that doesn't exist, right? So the chain was very deceptively light looking and very feathery looking and very soft. So Fenrir was like, okay, something might be up. I feel like they're tricking me. You know, if they use like super strong chains the first 2 times, or are they going to use this super, basically like putty chain this time, right? So he was like, okay, the only way that you are going to chain me up in this is if one of you sticks your hand in my mouth. And if I can't break free, then one of you is going to have your hand bitten off. Now, the gods knew. They were like, okay, well, if one of us sticks our hand in his mouth, we're not going to have a hand. And we're going to lose it in a very painful way. So eventually, Tyr, who is the god of law, war, and justice, volunteers to stick his hand in Fenrir's mouth, knowing that he is going to lose it. So Fenrir's chained up, and he can't break free. So he tears Tyr's hand clean off his arm, which I can only imagine would be extremely painful. So the chains around Fenrir were wrapped around a massive boulder that is not going anywhere. And this part, I feel bad. So they shoved a sword in between his jaws so that he could not close his mouth. And, you know, he was like howling and crying, which like, yeah, that sounds like it would suck. And he was howling and crying so much that the spit from his mouth became the river Van, which means expectation. So, eventually, at Ragnarok, which is the end of all cosmos, where everything goes to shit, Fenrir is able to break free along with his father Loki, his brother Jormungandr, and his sister Hel. They are all able to break free of their own respective captivities, and they all just wreaked havoc. And I'm unbiased, but as they should. Okay, maybe I'm not that unbiased. So Fenrir is finally able to be free, and he's able to stretch his legs and everything. And it's kind of like a in your face type of situation. He actually stretches his jaws so wide because, you know, they were forced open before, and now he's able to just stretch them so wide that his bottom jaw touches the earth and the top one touches the sky. And he just swallows everything in his path. He swallows everything. So, eventually, he unfortunately meets his end. So it was prophesied that Fenrir would eventually end up killing Odin during Ragnarok. So he swallows Odin. I'm sure it wasn't an easy death because Fenrir was pretty pissed. But eventually, one of Odin's sons, Vidar, who's like the silent god, he's not that active in mythology, he didn't do that much, he kills Fenrir. So I saw several different accounts of this. He just tore Fenrir apart and with his own strength, or he had these shoes. So I'm going with the shoes retelling because that I've seen it more often than the others. So he was said to have these magical shoes that I believe like gave him strength. And it's believed that the shoes were actually made for this event in particular. So he steps on Fenrir's lower jaw and he presses against his upper jaw, and he just rips Fenrir apart with these shoes. That is the end of Fenrir. So now let's talk about Fenrir and the other wolves in Norse mythology because it's pretty interesting. So there are several other accounts of other wolves that are actually just believed to be Fenrir, going by a different name or have some relation to Fenrir. So there are many poems and pieces of literature that refer to other large wolves doing basically what Fenrir did. There's a wolf that's referred to as Moongarm or Hati, who ate the moon. He just swallowed it up. And it said that this other wolf's skull swallowed the sun. Now, remember, Fenrir's jaw was stretched super wide so he could swallow everything. So, it's possible and probable that Hattie and Skull were actually just Fenrir in a different, name. There's also a wolf called Garm who broke free from chains during Ragnarok. Fenrir did this also, remember? So, since Fenrir is such a large part in the destruction of all the cosmos, it's pretty valid to believe that all of these wolves wreaking havoc are just him by a different name. This is not entirely confirmed, but it's basically guaranteed that all of these wolves have some sort of relation to Fenrir. Now, it's also a possibility that Skull and Hattie were actually just Fenrir's sons, or some sort of extension of himself. Either way, it's all just basically Fenrir in different names or different forms. So the story of Fenrir and his end is depicted on many runestones, which are stones that are carved with these Norse runes that exist from the 4th to the 12th century. And they have both writings and pictures on them, and that is how we were able to get the story of Fenrir. Alright, that is it. That is the story of Fenrir. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully soon I will be coming out with the next installment in this series. If you want to know who it's going to be about and when it's coming out, I will make sure to announce it on my social medias, which will be linked below. And since this was the first video, I kind of learned what works and what doesn't, so hopefully it's only going to get better from here. I'm really going to try to keep improving. So yeah, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed.